You have to do is go to that and not worry about it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find it on a
Right.
page, and yeah, I get frustrated with it too, which is why some of us show up late on these Zoom meetings. We're still looking for the right path to get on.
Yeah, there's been numerous studies that people that are vested in their community tend to have less crime, and it becomes a safer environment. And it also, a lot of the towns with great success have community involvement.
Absolutely.
And I think just making it easier for the community to interact and be involved,
Mm-hmm.
in offering those easy solutions online, or even verbally going to the small businesses recommending that they, join forces, and they talk about developing um, more forums, maybe having like a white paper type of forum where we talk about how to innovate Vallejo and at the community level, you know.
Well, the more public input, the more numbers of people that are involved, the better process, the better outcome you will obtain. The question is, how do you get there?
Right.
And one thing I'm starting to observe now that we are halfway into our district election format is that those representatives on the city council who are from a designated district are becoming more and more aware of and sensitive to the demands of people within their districts. We're still half district and half at large on the city council. That'll change in the next election. But for now, people who are from the districts are starting to pay more attention to those whom they know actually live in their district. The difficulty they encounter is when you get an email, when you get a phone call, they don't necessarily say, hey, I live in the first district or I live in the fourth district. They just say, I'm John Smith, and sometimes they give their address and sometimes they don't. What I'm discovering is that people from districts give more importance to those who are in their districts because that's their constituency.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage anybody who communicates with city council to say, I live in this district or I live in your district, Councilman Jones. See? So let's get that moving. And when we move into the 2022 elections, and we have elections on the west side of the freeway, we had the east last time. You're going to see a great improvement. I think you're going to see a lot more people running for council, and they're going to be more aware to the needs of their areas, which I think is a good thing because we've negated a lot of the area needs for too long in this city due to the need to pay out salaries at a very high rate across the board. Where 87% of our general fund goes to salaries.
That's
That doesn't leave much left over for roads or
no.
for programs.
Right. And I think that with the inception of the structure of government, I think it was not intended, initially to be, it was more volunteer. Um, on usually people have their own businesses, but it does take a lot to manage a town or city, um, in a lot of hours. I would believe, but I think that in some instances, not just here in our town, but on a different scale, you see all the money not going and allocated back, to the community. And how do you feel about that?
Rather strongly. When we hire people, we give preference points to veterans. We give more preference points to disabled veterans. I think we should add a preference number of points on the civil service evaluations for somebody who actually lives in this city, because study after study after study has shown that people spend their money where they live. So if you start having more money going through the city in which we live, then I think you'll see the spin-off and you'll see improvement in your facilities and your services. But that has to happen, and right now it hasn't because we haven't provided for that as a policy. So if we can legally do that, and that's a question the city attorney I hope will weigh in on time, then yeah, I think we should probably give a 5 point preference to people who live here,
Yes.
and hopefully they'll continue to live here.
Well, I'm feeling very optimistic, and I think this is a breath of fresh air to have someone so proactive, and you've already put out things on social media, and I'm sure you're hitting the community and at the ground level, and meeting with different organizations. What do you have planned in networking with the community in your new role?
Well, the first couple of weeks I've been figuring out how to get in and out of the office with the shutdown, even with the numbers already used on the door, and where I can go and when I can go there, things like that. It's just like any new employee. And there's nobody there to really show me the ropes other than the executive assistant I have as much as possible, because she's only there on a limited time basis also. But so far, we've talked with Channel 27 about having a format of some type up there on television. This is the second time I've been kind enough to have been invited here, and I'm happy to continue with that. I'm pushing the city to think about having to have a table down at the farmers market during the good weather, because so many people will come down to farmers market, and that's one of their principal sources of information. So let's have somebody down there who can answer questions for them, or at least point them in the right direction, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we need to be more open and available. Most professional city manager type people look at the computer as being the overall end-all answer to everything. Well, the reality is people in my age group a lot don't use the computer, or they use it very limited. A lot of people don't even like the computer. So there's still a need for print media. There's still a need for radio and TV. And I think we need to find more ways of having direct contact when the pandemic will permit us to do so.
Yes, definitely. Safety overall. And I definitely want to, is there anything else that you want to add? I want to thank you for coming here today. Is there anything that you want the public to know?
There is. When people feel the need to speak to city council or city employees, they often talk about what their problem is, and that's understandable. But I would challenge people to go further than that. Link the description of the problem with a suggestion, but make it a suggestion that is actually obtainable. Let's take sideshows, for instance. They're terrible imposition. They're organized. There are hundreds of people who participate in those things. And the response of the police department is, well, one, we try to call in people from other areas if they have the availability. Two, we try to set up blocks where there's only one way out of town. And three, we pick up the people who aren't smart enough to know the one way out of town. As a result, the ones who are really experienced know how to get out, and the rest of them who are there maybe inadvertently, the ones who wind up having their car confiscated. But we need to be able to start offering feasible methods of solving problems. Pie in the sky is wonderful, but it has to work, and it has to be affordable, at least in this town as well. And that's probably true for other cities as well. I saw Martinez is considering bankruptcy the other day. There are other cities I know that are on the verge of it. We have to start making this city throughout California work for everybody, or it won't at all.
Well, I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful now. Do you have a particular song you want me to play to close out?
Well, I'm a multi-generational Californian, and I love California because it's open, it's acceptable, and that's what its hallmark is. We learn how to work with everybody who comes here. I've seen immigration, wave after immigration, come through this city and this state and improve it. So I love California dreaming.
You got it. Thank you, Mr. Robert McConnell. And I want to encourage everyone to be active in our community. We can uplift this city, and I see so much potential. And now to have a mayor that it wants to be proactive and considers all different types of, different solutions. I think this is really refreshing. Thank you so much, sir, for coming out today.
Well, thank you, and get involved just as you did by inviting me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Holy crap, that was beautiful. You guys made me want to cry a few times. Great job, team. Wow.